You do not need to have it all figured out to be a good steward. You really don't. Just learn to be faithful and grateful for what is right in front of you. Welcome back to Brewing Bit, everybody. I'm your host, Noor Saavedra. I'm so glad that you're joining me here today and are ready to be on this journey of being better, mind, body, soul, mentally, spiritually, and emotionally in 2026 for us and everyone around us. Can't believe it is the year 2026. And also, please make sure to like this video and share it with someone who you know needs maybe a little bit of motivation or better yet, direction for this year. I know that you might be totally overwhelmed with all things rebranding, being new, and everything else in 2026. And look, I'm right there with you. I love consuming this type of content, but I know it can be really, really, really overwhelming. And so I'm going to hold your hand through this process, and we are going to make 2026 our best year by doing something so simple. There's a certain feeling that comes with 2026 and the new year. There is something just new all around us, that people just have a certain optimism, have goals. It's just something about the start of the year, and we want, of course, to grab onto that, but we also need a lot of discipline to make sure that we don't stay like everybody else who has a great January and then tanks come February. So we must use all things to our advantage. So with that, let's just get into this week's episode. Have you ever felt like you're just waiting around for your real life to start? I know I've been there. Just a few years ago, I remember feeling like I needed to have a little bit more money, a little bit more freedom, a little bit more opportunity, etc., for me to feel like I was living my best life. We often get caught up just wanting and praying for more of something, but not really enjoying or realizing what we have right now. And I saw a few TikToks this past week, and I couldn't agree with them more that 2026 has to be the year that we steward our lives well. Not necessarily hoping for more or doing more or waiting for something even, but realizing and stewarding our life right now. Because God cannot bring in more into our life unless we are able to care for what we have right now. I've definitely mentioned it before. Stewardship is not just about money. Stewardship is about your time, your energy, your mind, your calling. It's all areas of your life, your relationships. It's everything. You can be busy. You can even be productive, but not be a good steward of your life. And that is a crazy thought, especially in today. We're taught to hustle. We're taught to go and do it all, but we aren't taught how to do it well. Stewardship is recognizing that you don't necessarily need more, but being grateful for what is in front of you and wanting to care and nurture it, because what is in front of us is truly a blessing. And there are things that we have that someone would dream of just stepping right into our shoes, and that is our reality. If we continue to look at someone else's grass as greener than ours, then that is what we will continue to believe. And that is what will be our reality, because what we believe and what we think is truly because of how powerful our mind is. It is very important to teach ourselves and to intentionally care for the things in our life and also be grateful for them. I have this friend who I was just talking to the other day, and she kept saying how she didn't have enough money for something. And I heard her, and I've heard her over and over and over again. But I really felt compelled this time to tell her, if you continue to call yourself broke, if you continue to say that you don't have enough, no matter how much money you have, it will never feel enough. And that's a reality that I've lived through. But if you take a second to pause and look at, are your bills paid? Yes. Do you have extra spending money? Yes. Then how are you broke? You're not broke. You're just not spending the money the way that you may want to. And that's not a money problem. That's a stewardship problem. So take the time and look at your life. Most of us do not need more of anything. We need to be able to take care of the gifts and the things that God has given us right now. Identify them, look at them, and see how we're able to care and nurture them. For example, God has given us an able body. How do we take care of it? Do we feed it the right foods? Do we move it? Do we make sure we stretch? How do we care for it? Do we relax, or are we constantly in a fight or flight mode? Begin to assess the things that God has given you. This from the smallest to the biggest. And once you are able to care for the things that He's given you and identify the blessings as true blessings, that's when you're able to invite more into your life. And it comes so much more easily. But it all begins by taking care of what you have right now, not creating the perfect little vision board and praying for something over and over and over again. No, it's by caring for the things that you have in your life right now. When you are able to look at the blessings in your life as true blessings, your whole mindset will begin to shift. You won't look at someone else's life and desire it because you will be so in love with your own. It's so easy for us to complain and to point out the bad things in our life, right? So easy to do. But if you begin to look at those things and maybe they aren't so bad, maybe there is good in it. When we first bought our home in 2020, I remember it wasn't everything that I wanted. Didn't have the backyard I wanted, didn't have the right layout that I wanted. And I just started to really have buyer's regret. I didn't really tell my husband too much. It just was something that I was dealing with internally, and as well as going through pregnancy. So my hormones went up and down as well. But I had a lot of that. And I remember listening to a podcast, and they talked about how important it is for you to love where you live. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's your dream home or not, but learn to love your space, because if you are so upset with your space and so frustrated, you really aren't able to get beyond that. That's just all you begin to focus, because that's where you live, that's where you sleep, that might be where you work, that's where you come home and you're supposed to relax. And if you're not relaxed, or if you're just thinking about all the things that are wrong with it, you're just in this state of negativity. And that's exactly where I was. But once I started to make the shift and started to look at my space as something I loved how the light would come in and hit my coffee machine when I was making my coffee. I loved how I was able to just take a walk during the day and it was quiet, and that I saw beautiful flowers all on my walk. I loved that I had different spaces to do different things. I just learned to love the space that I lived in. And even though it wasn't my dream home, I learned to be able to look at it like it was. And that was a start of such a shift in my life. I was able to just look at things and not be so negative. I was able to see how God was working through it. And I wanted to take care of it, So I would clean my house. I would care for it. I would want to upkeep it because I knew the blessing that it was. I truly believe with all my heart that God is looking for us to be capable of trusting with much. The only way that we are able to show Him that we will be faithful with much is if we are faithful in the little. So this week, I want you to start to look at the things in your life. Look at your calling. Look at your time. Look at your mindset. Look at your body. How are you caring? How are you nurturing it? How are you stewarding the things that God has given you? Stewardship is all about responsibility. And one day we will look back at this time in our life and we will be able to either say we stewarded it well or we wasted time. And I know you don't want to waste any more time. In 2026, right now, is the ideal time for you to choose differently. One of the areas that I want you to focus on specifically in the next few weeks is stewarding your time. The loudest thing in your life will continue to drain you of all your time and energy. But the loudest thing doesn't necessarily mean the most important thing. I've learned sometimes the loudest thing can be notifications, other people's emergencies, not yours. So stewarding your time can look like protecting your morning, protecting your sacred moments, your prayer time, the time that you have set aside for just getting in the right headspace. That is something for you to protect and to steward well. Create non-negotiables, things that would just be a boundary for you to set. That's clear yes and no. And also make sure to steward your inner life, your thought life, your mind, your heart. What we dwell on, we will become. If we continue to look and point out all the things that are wrong, that is what we will see, and that is what we will be. Miserable. I'm saying it because I've been there. This is where you have to begin to search for the good things in your life because they're there. You have to begin to pinpoint and say and speak gratitude over and over again over your life. You have to learn to be grateful for every area of your life. It doesn't necessarily need to be perfect. Life isn't perfect, but we can truly be grateful for something in every area of our life. There are things for us to identify, but that's the thing. Sometimes it might need a little bit of searching, but doing a little bit of extra work and finding the things to be grateful for will help us shift in ways that will benefit us and the people around us. Because look, how are the people that are truly grateful for life around? We all know what it's like to be around someone who complains and just is constantly down about their life, right? It is draining to be around that person. So don't be that person. Be the person that is a joy to be around because they're able to identify the good things in every situation. Find the silver lining in your situation in your life. And sometimes it might be really hard, but that's where you go to God's word and you begin to speak that over your mind. And that might be the very thing that you need to see things begin to shift. I had to say over and over again that he has good plans for me, plans to prosper and not to harm me, plans for a hope and a future. I had to say these things over and over again in order for me to believe them. But guess what? Now I do. Now I believe his word to be true for my life. You do not need to have it all figured out to be a good steward. You really don't. Just learn to be faithful and grateful for what is right in front of you. I know this might be counterintuitive to everything else that someone might be saying about rebranding, but if you don't learn to enjoy what is right in front of you, you will never be ready for the season that requires and gives you more. So be sure to steward your life well. If this spoke to you, please let me know in the comments what one area in your life that you want to steward better. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode, you guys. I truly believe that 2026 can be everything that we desire it to be if we learn to steward our lives well. So let's do it together. See you in next week's episode.